Kevin Foster.
I'm here to talk about ethics. And ethics are difficult for most people to understand. But what people do not understand, they tend to ignore. Ignoring ethical problems can have devastating consequences, as you are about to hear. Once upon a time, I was a very successful real estate executive. I traveled the world with my wife, owned a mansion on the river and a place in the Virgin Islands. We loved our lifestyle, and we never thought it could go away. But it did. And I found myself here, in prison, in solitary confinement for protective custody. In prison lingo, this is known as the hole. It was cold and dreary and sparse. I went from drinking fine wine to begging for a carton of milk. But it was in the solitude of that cell that I decided that no one should have this experience. I am here today so that you do not have to have your picture taken like this. And you think your driver's license looked bad? They didn't even ask me to smile. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this can never happen to me, right? Well, you know, that's what I thought too. But I was sorely mistaken. Today you will learn the personal characteristics and circumstances leading to unethical behavior and how that can lead to criminal liability. Consider this. There are 5,000 criminal laws, another 10,000 to 300,000 federal regulations that can get you put in prison. Far too many for any one person to know, and not knowing that you are breaking the law is not a defense. However, I have noticed that most criminal prosecutions do not come from violations of little-known laws and regulations, but are often small slips that are preventable by adhering to ethical principles. The problem is that ethics is an enigma to most people, something puzzling and mysterious. So I developed an ethics toolkit that provides clues as to whether someone is slipping into unethical behavior. So let me share the rest of my story with you. And along the way, I'll share my clues. And perhaps you have witnessed these clues previously in your life. When I worked at that real estate company, the owners would do things and say things that I thought were perhaps a little unethical, maybe even illegal. And I thought, well, that was them, not me. But here is a clue. That was stinking thinking on my part. I missed that clue. One of the owners used to joke about walking the line between doing what was legal and what was illegal. He called it staying in the light or crossing into the dark side. Little did I know that his actions and my knowledge of those actions would come back to bite me years later. But here is a clue. It was obvious that we had integrity issues in leadership in our company. I missed that clue. There came a time when I questioned one of our real estate programs. And I was told, this is what the bankers set up. In fact, the company had gotten a legal opinion that less the program is being completely illegal. Here's a clue. I should have trusted my gut and not relied on third-party validation, but I did not. As my high life went on and my money continued to roll in, one of the owners incredibly said, "When this all goes down, I will not be the only one going to prison." Well, who did I think he was talking about? Not me. Or so I thought. The sad thing is that I did not consider the consequences of letting all that unethical behavior slide by without me stopping it or walking away from it. I missed that clue. One day I received a phone call from our corporate attorney. He told me that the state attorney general had just sued our company and all of its officers, which included me, for alleged fraud. And there was a federal criminal investigation. The feds were not accusing me of directly defrauding anyone. Instead, they were accusing me of conspiracy. Their claim was that as an officer of the company, I should have known that there was a fraud going on. And the fact that I did nothing to stop it must have meant that I participated in it. The federal prosecutors only had to show that I touched the conspiracy in some way in order to convict me of the entire conspiracy. And this was very easy to do with an email, a text, some document I wrote, a meeting that I attended. It is so easy to prove conspiracy. This is why white-collar defendants get convicted of it all the time. Well, one of those federal prosecutors visited my attorney. And essentially, I was given two options. I could either plead guilty, in which case my legal fees, according to my attorney, would be in excess of $1 million. Really? Well, yeah, on a complicated white-collar case, that's what they run. And I would probably lose, and I would spend in excess of 20 years in prison. Or I could plead guilty to one count. I would spend some time in prison, but there would be light at the end of the tunnel. Well, life is full of options. And sometimes those options are lousy. And that was the case here. But for better or for worse, I decided to plead guilty to one count. It was the best business decision I ever made. And to think it was all preventable. I would spend 37 months in a federal prison. You remember that phone call from my corporate attorney telling me that my life was about ready to change forever? Right then and there, I hung up the phone and turned to my wife. And I said, "Honey, I will give you a divorce and everything we own." You see, I loved her too much to put her through the agony that I knew was sure to come. And all she could say was for better or for worse. My friends, that is true love. at least I knew I did something right in my life. But for better or for worse, pretty much summed up what our lives would be like for the next 10 years. But I would not be here today without the faith and love of this woman right here. My friends, as you leave today, please do not make the same mistakes that I made. The clues are all around you.